Hey everybody, it's Irene with BrainStormAcres. And lately we've had several people ask us how we know when to start our vegetables. I have to admit, I have a cheat sheet. I go to Johnny's Select Seeds, who gives me nothing, by the way. They're glad to sell me things, but they give me nothing. And they have I think they call it vegetable growth calculator or something like that. Basically what that means is they have a program that you can put your last frost date in and it'll work back for you. Now, if you don't want to do that, or if you're only growing a couple of things, you can also just figure it out by using the seed packs. This is a celosia from Haas Tools. They also give me nothing. Except they sell me really good stuff. It says when to plant after last frost. Okay, so if I know that my last frost, for instance for us, it's somewhere between, as an average, between the 15th and 22nd of May. So if I'm being super cautious, I'll say, okay, the 22nd of May. So that means I'm going to plant it after the 22nd of May. So I can literally make myself a little calendar and say, okay, that's when this needs to get planted. How about something else? Ageratum. This one also says after last frost, because they're thinking you're just going to direct seed it. Now, who might not have something about that? Here, Johnny's. Okay. This is Globe Amaranth, which is Gomphrena. This is a red variety. And it says Transplant Culture. Transplant recommended in parentheses. So 6 to 8 weeks before last frost. Keep soil surface moist. Transplant to cell packs or larger containers about 3 weeks after sowing. Transplant out after danger of frost has passed. Direct seeding is not recommended. Now you could probably direct seed this if you live someplace with extremely long growing season. We do not. So what this tells me is that for me, 6 to 8 weeks before my last frost, okay, get the calendar out, figure out when that is. So what I actually have is I use the cheat sheet. I don't do this. This is the hard way as far as I'm concerned. But if I only had a couple of things, I could easily put that on a calendar. Because I'm growing a gazillion things, I actually have the cheat sheet from Johnny's that I use that tells me how many weeks before my last frost, and because it's got a nice little computer app with it, it actually tells you what those dates are. I write that down on a piece of paper by month, and then I organize it because it'll give you the actual planting week that you should be planting them in. And then I have that which stays in the kitchen. It's a bit messy and it's longer than this. And then I create a nice, neat version of it. So back in February, the 6th through the 20th, because they give you a range. And of course, there's always a range. The world does not end if you plant your tomatoes 2 days late. Now, if you plant them 2 months late, the world is still not going to end. You just might not get any tomatoes. But in this case, it says the 6th through the 20th of February, I should be planting onions. The 6th through the 27th, dianthus. The 20th, leeks. 20th through the 13th of April, peas. The 20th of February, spinach. Okay, and I literally keep a chart. Now, we do break the rules sometimes. For instance, March 20th says that we're supposed to have started a bunch of stuff like broccoli and stuff. We already did that because we're going to grow those in here. But they'll be in buckets that we can move outside when it's reasonable to do so. If we decide to, we might not, depending on how bad the vermin is this year. Because we're growing these vegetables for us, not for the bugs and for the critters. Swiss chard, for instance, comes up March 20th. We have actually decided we're not going to grow it this spring. We're going to plant it towards the end of the summer, and it's very cold to hardy, so we'll be able to put that in a pot outside, grow it fine at the end of the summer, and then move it inside when it gets so cold that it's not going to like it outside anymore. Although I have seen winters here where we were able to keep Swiss chard going a good bit of the winter. So I used my cheat sheets. Now, today what I did was I looked through everything that I've already planted, and I was missing seeds for 3 different flowers that ideally should have gone in the first week of March. So they're on my list. And then I pulled off everything from this week and last week, because I didn't finish everything from last week either too. And I have my list. And then I have to decide how I'm going to plant them. So snapdragons will go in here. Lupins will go in here. I'm not going to plant beets, or if I do, I'll direct seed those into a bucket. I don't want to transplant them. Some people do. I don't usually like to. Swiss chard, we're postponing. Calendula, bachelor buttons, gomphrena will go in here. Sweet peas will not go in here because of the size of the pea. That will go into a larger cell. So I'll use the 1020s, which only have, or like these, they only have 5 slots, and each slot is about 1.5 inches square. These guys are littler, so stuffing peas in there doesn't sound like a good idea. Ageratum, celosia, cosmos, marigolds, dianthus. So a lot of these are going in here. There will be some things like tomatoes that I will not plant in here. I want to have a larger cell for them so that I do not have to transplant them as early. I think that out. When I first started doing this kind of stuff, I had one option. I had something similar to this that used the little Jiffy pellets, which expand when you put them in water. That's what I had. And then I eventually got something that actually I could put soil in. And I use these kind of trays because you can buy a simple kit through multiple sources. Haas Tools has them. Pretty much any of the big online growers, Harris, Parks, Burpee, any of those guys will have these kind of seeding kits available. The big box stores have them at this time of year. They'll have a bottom tray that's waterproof, a top tray that's got the spots in it for the soil, and then the little dome. Super simple. I haven't priced them this year. Usually they run between $20 and $30. I'm sure there's ones that are fancier, and there might be some that are less expensive now. I don't know. I haven't priced them. I bought mine in quantity from suppliers online because of where I live. It's a pain in the patootie to haul someplace all the time. My larger things that either have really big seeds like sweet peas and nasturtiums eventually, those will go into larger sizes like this. The things that I want to sit in the trays for a much longer period of time, like tomatoes, will go into something this big or bigger, because I have another setup that only has 4 across, so that's even bigger. And these other things that I could pretty well hold because they're not super fast growing, or that I don't mind potting up, I'll just leave them to be in the little guys like this. These are 162 trays. These hold 50. The other one I have holds 40, I think. So I have options now because I've chosen to have options. When you're getting started, just get something simple. It'll work fine. I had simple solutions like this for probably 10 years, 12 years before I got fancy. I decided to do something more obnoxiously complicated. And the reason I went to something like the 162 tray was I didn't have enough space. I wanted to grow 1 million flower seeds and 1 million vegetable seeds, and I didn't have enough space. So I switched to these because I could put a much larger quantity of seeds in a much smaller space and then pot them up when it's time, or pot them out. Ideally, you just pot these straight into the field. Sometimes you can't, depending on what the weather's doing. But if you can, that's the preferred way to do it. And that's the way the professional growers do it. They will have big trays like this of peppers and tomatoes and everything else, and they will set them out much smaller than your average home gardener will. But I hope this helps you figure out how I choose to plant my seeds? When do I know? I use science. I am a big fan of science. And then after science comes paying attention to what the weather's doing. So if suddenly we were going to be 12 degrees and I was concerned about a bunch of things in here freezing to death like the potatoes, they'd be in the house. It's just the way it is. They're the only thing that would have to come in the house, actually. Because I could probably keep this warm enough to not have everything freeze to death. But the potatoes and the sweet potatoes would have to come in the house. And I just accept that, and I'm ready to wing it on a moment's notice because our weather changes like crazy. So I hope this helps. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. And be sure to come back because obviously I'm going to be planting a lot of seeds. We're going to be doing all kinds of stuff. We'll run through all the processes of transplanting and potting up and planting out into the field and everything else. So especially if you're a newbie at this, you know, we're glad to help. If you have questions, don't hesitate to ask. There's no such thing. When I teach in person, I always tell people there's no such thing as a stupid question except for the question you didn't ask. Now I have to admit I've gotten some moderately ridiculous questions, but I don't want people to think of their questions as being stupid because we all had to learn somewhere. And if our moms and dads and grandparents and stuff didn't do this kind of stuff, well, how are we supposed to learn? We learned a lot of stuff from our parents. Henry and I were both fortunate enough to have family that gardened. And then we also did a lot of reading and a lot of YouTube watching and all that other sort of things. And a lot of experimentation, and not all of it was success. We'll be the first ones to tell you that our rutabaga crop this past winter was a failure. Will it be a failure next year? I don't know. I'm sure hoping it won't be, but we're learning a little bit each time, and we know what to watch out for now, and we're doing our best, and that's all you can ever do. So until next time, bye.